SEMIC assets that the aim of which is to facilitate and help member states achieve semantic interoperability. If we can move to the next slide and have a look among our assets, we have the core vocabularies, which are domain agnostic data models addressing the main entities that can be found in public administrators. We also have the application profiles. Application profiles either of core vocabularies or of DCAT-AP, which is the main standard for the metadata of datasets in Europe at the moment. So our main, so the application profiles and the core vocabularies as SEMIC assets target semantic interoperability. And today we are here to work on SEMIC's new baby, which is LDES. And the main target of LDES is to bridge the gap between technical and semantic interoperability. So thank you all for joining. We hope that this would be a fruitful meeting. And I'll give now the floor to Isabeau to continue with the flow of this event.
Yes, thanks a lot. So, hi everyone, I'm Isabeau Martens. I'm part of the SEMIC team and facilitating this trajectory on LDES together with Emil, Farouk, and Peter. FYI, the session is being recorded, so you all know. Yeah, moving on. Upcoming LDES events in the future. So today we have which is part of the LDES standardization track, the 30th of April today, LDES onboarding session. We have, after this one, 3 working groups planned, 7th of May, 12th of June, and the 3rd of July, where you can register already for those working groups. There's also the LDES community workshop for a broader audience, where we will have several speakers invited several speakers to come present their LDES experiences and how they have implemented it, have experienced it from consuming as well as producing sites. So that will be a very interesting workshop as well to attend. And you can meet us also on the SEMIC conference 2025 from 25 to 26 of November. Communication channels related to this trajectory. We'll have the online meetings for the standardization track as previously seen, except for the physical meeting on SEMIC 2025. We're still figuring out how this workshop or how we'll put the LDES trajectory or workshop in this conference. More information will follow on that. For core discussions, you can find us on the GitHub issues. And also join the Matrix channel for interesting discussions and direct chat messages in a group of interests. And if you want to follow up on all the working groups and receive the reports, you can leave your email address in the chat. So, we'll take it with us and we'll add you to the contact list. Then the agenda for today. So we had the welcoming introduction, and we will do a tour de table to get quickly around who's here, who's attending. Then we'll move on with a half an hour on the new trajectory and the plan for the workshops. We'll have half an hour for Q&A, and then the rest of the workshop will be on the technical walkthrough of the current LDES specifications and where we're going to take certain issues. A quick tour de table. I'll start with Peter to set the example, and then we'll go through the list.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Peter Kolpaert. I'm a researcher at Ghent University.
Now I see Anna Baptista.
Hello, I'm Ana Batista, and I am a professor at the University of Minho in Portugal.
Thank you. Arthur Verkruijsen.
Hello, I'm Arthur Verkruijsen. I'm a researcher at Ghent University in the team of Peter Kolpert.
Thank you. Benjamin Degenhardt.
Hi, I am from Germany and I have a semantic technology startup in Berlin.
Cool. Bert van Uffelen.
I'm Bert van Uffelen. I'm from Digital Founders Belgium and from the data governance and semantic interoperability team.
All right. Adam Arndt.
Hey everyone, I'm Adam Arndt from the Danish Agency for Digital Government.
Dries Moreels.
Goedemiddag. I'm Dries Moreels from Ghent University Library, interested in progress in interoperability.
Thank you. George Lobo. Elf Pavlik.
Hi, Elf Pavlik, independent culture of solid community group at W3C and participant of a few other W3C community groups.
Thank you. Jitse de Kok.
Hello, everyone. It's also part of the SEMIC team.
Josema Alonso.
Hi, I'm also part of the SEMIC team and I work mainly as a senior advisor on strategy and governance.
Julian Rojas.
Hi everyone, I'm postdoc researcher from Ghent University, also in the team of Peter Kolpert.
Karel Kramer.
Hey, I'm Karel. I'm with Red Pencil and we're using LDES extensively at the Flemish government right now. Also, I have very little voice today.
Thank you. Martinas Mokus.
Hello, everyone. I'm from Lithuania, from the government institution, and we are planning to implement also LDES, so it's very important meeting.
Great. Gérard Soisson.
Yeah, my name is Gérard Soisson. I'm from Luxembourg Ministry for Digitalization, and I'm working there at interoperability, e-delivery, electronic invoicing, and a few other topics. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then I have Maarten.
Hello, I'm Maarten Seger, solution architect at Amexio, and we use LDES for the city of Ghent.
Thank you. And Maarten Duhoux.
Yes, I'm Maarten Duhoux from the European Agency for Railways. Together, we've done some projects before, I believe, and still interested in how LDES will evolve.
Great. Mantas.
Hi, I'm from a State Digital Solutions Agency in Lithuania, and we're building universal API and thinking if it's possible to add support for LDES in our changes API.
Perfect. Mila Fredriks.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Mila Fredriks from Germany. I'm an open data consultant.
Jim Young.
Hello everyone, I'm Jim Young. I'm with the Norwegian Digitalization Agency.
Nuno Freire.
Hello, I'm Nuno Freire. I'm a researcher at Europeana.
Paul Hampson. My name's Paul Hampson. I work at the European Union Railways Agency, and we're currently going to start using knowledge graphs. So I'm interested in this. Great. Peter Bruin Andersen.
Yeah, I'm a linked data architect with the Danish Agency for Digital Governments.
Okay. Petteri Kivimaki.
Hey everyone, my name is Petteri Kivimaki. I'm the CTO of Nordic Institute for Interoperability Solutions, and I'm located in Helsinki, Finland.
Okay, Sander van Doorn.
Hello, my name is Sander, and now I am part of the SEMIC team, but before I was working on implementing LDES at the Flemish government.
Igor Pikovic.
Hello, I'm coming from Slovenian government. I work in the field of semantic interoperability.
Terje Silvanes.
Hello, Tara Silvanes. I work in the Norwegian Digitalization Agency with, amongst other things, the Norwegian application profile of DKIP.
All right, Vladimiras.
Hi all, also from Lithuania, working with Martinas and Mantas on the state agencies project to implement a universal API.
Great, and then last one, Xuying Deng.
Yes, so this is Xueying. I'm from EMAC. I have been working for the Flanders Smart Data Space. We implemented LDES, and I'm working for EMAC as software developer. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. Nice to see and hear all this enthusiasm and to see you all here. I think we can now kick it off and hand it over to Pieter Kolpaert.
Yes, thank you very much. And whoa, I really was very nervous for this trajectory, mainly because I was very afraid that nobody would show up. And now I'm really happy to see that actually quite a lot of really interesting people joined this call. So I'm very excited to be able to present you the 2025 trajectory of linked data event streams and where we're heading towards. So the spec today, which you can see at w3id.org/LDES/specification, someone put that in the chat. It's a living document, so there's it comes with a vocabulary. I always try to, in the past, just state that look, LDES is just a couple of terms on top of the tree specification in order to make sure that you can talk about things like retention policies, that you can talk about an event stream, about an event source, and so on. But it clearly became more than just a vocabulary. It really became a technical standard with a lot of usage notes on top of these terms and on indications for clients how they should interpret these. So far, however, there has not been a real promise to keep this specification stable or to really say like, look, this is now something that really went through a standardization trajectory. At this moment, it was just based on someone opened a GitHub issue and someone from the SEMIC team or I decided to then say, okay, yes, let's put this in, or let's ignore this issue for now because we don't have much time to work on it, for example. This is what we really want to change. We really want to, in this 2025 trajectory, make sure that we hit towards that we come towards a stable spec there. And there are currently 30 issues open in this repository. It contains requests for clarity, sometimes saying, yes, but what exactly did you mean there with that sentence? What does that mean that I can do as a producer? What can I do as a consumer? These things will need to be cleared out. And there are also a couple of feature requests. And even with this quite lightweight vocabulary that we published so far with a couple of usage notes attached to it, well, we already have quite some implementations that I'm quite proud about. We have implementations and generic tool chains for Sander switched jobs recently, but before that he was one of the lead architects behind the Flanders Smart Data Space technical tooling. That can be seen there. Then from my team, we have the RDF Connect framework. That's my team is an academic team, so we tend to produce software that contains a lot of experimental features as well in it. So therefore, we maintain something that is written in TypeScript that is easy to play and experiment with, which is in the RDF Connect framework over here. Then there's also in the RML framework, so the RDF mapping language. If you don't have linked data yet and you want to map it, there's now also extra functionality to actually produce a linked data event stream there. Then I also wanted to certainly link. I saw that someone from Red Pencil joined as well. So they also have a consumer service over there. So it starts getting adopted by companies as well. And we also have some ideas about LDES in Solid in order to actually post LDES entities or LDES members inside an LDP, a linked data platform structure, and then make sure that you can use that a Solid pod or a Solid server basically as storage for your LDES, and then also publish it in an LDES compliant way. There are also plenty of custom implementations, so you don't need to use a tool chain in order to publish LDES. You can basically just implement it as part of your own API framework, as part of a separate view on top of your own system. And there are plenty of examples like that as well. So the ambition of this trajectory is a consumer-oriented, backwards-compatible, stable release. So because at this moment, the spec has both like usage notes for people who want to publish an LDES and usage notes for people who would like to consume an LDES. And we need to make a choice in order to make a clear spec. And there, our recent strategy has been to, in terms, because we're also involved in the tree specification, for example, the tree specification there, we really took the decision to have a consumer-oriented view. Why? Because we want to provide that loose coupling between servers and clients. We don't want to write a client for one specific server. Now we want to make sure that we write clients for an ecosystem. So we really want to make sure that how clients are built within the LDES ecosystem, that we define that really well. And that we then establish that loose coupling so that actually servers can adopt certain features from the LDES spec or from the 3N LDES spec in order to make sure that certain benefits are reached. But there's not a lot of real normative things within for the producers. No, it's only look, if they do certain things, then our clients will be able to do certain features, and that's the idea here. That loose coupling between server and clients. And so certainly we want these consumers to also become unambiguously testable, which at this moment is also a little bit like, but what does it mean exactly to be in order, for example? This is one of the issues that we need to solve by next week, for example. So the new consumer-oriented spec will adhere to a new structure. That one will be at the same location of the main spec today. And the idea will be to first provide an overview of the LDES terms and the intended use, then explain what a consumer must implement, so things on initialization, on traversing the event stream, on state management, on handling HTTP error codes, and so on. We'll also have a chapter on interpreting retention policies, because that's a big part of what LDES is introducing. And then at the end, we will just have the vocabulary and their terms and their semantics, something that now was a little bit everywhere in the spec. We'll just give that its own respective section at the end of the spec. However, the big question then, of course, becomes, but if there's only a consumer spec, how do I then create a server? It will only become even more difficult to understand whether something is compliant when I produce it. Well, no, because we will have clear clients that become technically interoperable because they adhere to the same technical specification. We can now also really create a better primer or better documentation, basically, for how to build a server, how to build a producer, how to produce an LDES. So at this moment, this link does not exist yet, but the idea is to have a separate spec, a primer, basically, that then explains with not normative text, but with best practices about, hey, how can you provide the best possible linked data event stream out there for everyone? Not that this is the only way, but hey, this is a best practice, something that we, from our pilots that we do, from our implementations that we've done, that we see as the best of all possible ways to actually implement a linked data event stream. So that's the idea. We will have use cases focusing on harvesting, because at this moment we're, for example, working on pilots with in the cultural heritage sphere. We've also already done pilots with the railway infrastructure of ERA. We also are working on DKTP feeds and are collaborating with data.europa.eu there to do things. And all of these use cases basically are harvesting. Like they harvest data, or they centralize data around a certain theme. They centralize that in one system, but the authoritative source is still, for example, at the member state level. So the use case that we will handle in the server primer is mainly on harvesting. Again, not that this is the only use case possible for LDES, but it will provide clarity for these things. Good. And a third thing, so we'll do a consumer oriented specification as the main specification. We'll then have a server primer. And a third thing that we'll have, for which the repository has already been created, is LDES implementation reports. This because the server primer will still be domain agnostic. So if it's domain agnostic, still, if you would like then to say, but I want to share data in the cultural heritage domain, or I want to share address data, or I want to share railway infrastructure, or I will want to share metadata in the DCAT and the DKTP application profile, then still you will get some questions about how do these entities change? How do I describe a change or an activity in this specific domain? What's the shackle shape that these things will adhere to, and so on? And that's where I think we also need to build implementation reports. So this week we've created the LDES implementation reports GitHub repository, in which we will make a folder for each domain, and in which we will have a space where we can document if someone else in your ecosystem, for example, the railway infrastructure, wants to join. They have clear documentation on how to build an LDES for railway infrastructure there, for example. At this moment, it has one implementation report in it. That's the DKTP feeds implementation report that we made in the previous pilot. But there's also a pull request open already for a cultural heritage feeds thing. If you have certain something that you want to share, an implementation report where you decided entities change together, and how you also want that others copy your example and follow your example, at least into publishing data in a certain domain, please feel free to open up a pull request there. With the documentation in it, we'll gladly host that implementation report over there. Good. Then, in preparation of this trajectory, Sander, maybe you want to say something about this. Then people hear another voice.
Yes, well, yes. So this document was something we produced as the outcome of the realization. So in the Flemish government, what we were working on was building a semantic data space layer. So we wanted to, while building data spaces, not only to have the whole typical data space infrastructure, the contractual part and the negotiation and access to data sets part, figure it out right, but also the data transfer itself and the actual data being exchanged. We wanted to have infrastructure ready to be able to share linked data in our data space. And to do so, we implemented an LDES server and an LDES client, as well as some building blocks to set up data pipelines. And from the experience of doing so, implementing a server and a client, we produced, after the implementation, we produced this node with some thoughts and ideas that could serve as an input for this working group. Things that where we thought, well, where the spec needed a bit of work, or where things could be further clarified. Yes, I'll keep it at that, as not to take up too much time.
Yeah, but the this input document, so as prepared by Flanders in 2024, so it was delivered around September, October, I think, if I remember correctly. That then was the starting note for, okay, we really need to set up this trajectory in 2025. We really need to evolve this back into something more stable, consumer-oriented, testable, and so on. And we took these issues and feature requests. We took them into the work plan of this this thing. So again, showing the dates for the working groups. So today you're here in the LDES Working Group in the onboarding session. Next week already, there's the 7th of May. There's the working group 1. Then 1 month later, the 12th of June, there will be the second one, and then the 3rd of June, July, sorry, there will be the last one. Then there will be a public review period for implementations from the 3rd of July until SEMIC 2025, where I hope that we will be able, we didn't talk about it yet, right, SEMIC team? But I imagine it as something with a buzzer, where then all of a sudden confetti will come from the ceiling, and then we will be able to say, yes, LDES, the new specification is now stable, and it has some implementations that have been published. I'm joking about the confetti. I don't think that will be reasonable, or that will be feasible. Good, but important in this group, because you're all now following the standardization trajectory. At least the onboarding session, you'll see who you'll send to the next 3, or whether you'll come to the next 3 at all. Because there we're really going to go in depth in the technical discussions on what to add, what to reject, and so on from it. However, we don't have much time. Each time during these working groups, we will have only, or these workshops, we'll only have 2 hours. So in order to make that as efficient as possible, what we'll do is each time we'll already have a lot of pre-discussions on GitHub. So with everyone who wants to weigh on the specification itself, what we'll do is we'll prepare beforehand. We'll prepare the pull requests. We have the issues. We can discuss further on possible solutions to these issues on GitHub. And each time during the working group itself, or the workshop itself, we'll present then the most viable solution. We'll present the pull request that has been opened, and then there are 3 possible decisions that we can take during the call. Either we accept and we together click on the merge it in the specification button, or we have a conditional accept, meaning that there's someone who raised some objections, or there are some phrasing is not 100% correct. Then then we document a conditional acceptance that someone will need to check whether indeed these criteria have been met then, and can then, even without a new online meeting, it can then be merged at a later phase. Or we actually click reject, and we don't merge the pull request at all. So these are the decisions that we'll be able to take, and everyone who joins the meeting at that time will be able to have their say, or will be able to cast their vote on whether to accept it or not. The workshops and the issues. So we have these 3 workshops at these dates. So the how we will structure them is, well, we'll have some thematics each time. We also discussed like these 3 different kind of specs. So one is the main spec, the LDES consumer oriented spec. Then we have the server primer, and we also have the implementation report. So this trajectory will be mainly about the first 2. And the first 2 workshops is going to be about the main spec. the last workshop is going to be dedicated to the server primer with best practices that we're going to build. In the first workshop on the consumer-oriented spec, we're going to work on first a big thing, restructuring the spec and making sure that it really has that consumer-oriented ring to it. And we'll also start talking about things like extending retention policies, but also look at transactions, which are big feature requests there. And in order to already start, we already created a pull request for that that restructures the entire specification. If you now go to the linked data event streams repository, you'll see that in the issues that we actually tagged all the issues with the workshop number. So if you go to, you can basically filter on the labels and can filter on all the 2025 workshop ones, and then you'll actually see which issues that we'll tackle then. In workshop 1, what will that entail? Well, I just listed everything over here. Basically, preparing that rewrite, but from both the GitHub issues and from the document of Flanders, the preparation document, I've extracted these work items that we need to work on. So the first rewrite there, also with named graph support. At this moment, there was no named graph example yet in the LDES spec, while I think that using named graph certainly is a best practice, something that we should advocate more towards LDES producers, that they use that in order to provide their members. Then there's a list of additions to the spec that are quite minor, I would say, but still might spark some discussion. For example, we will have a type event source to really say, like, if we have 5 different views on top of an LDES, that this one really publishes it for the consumption in a LDES client, so that the LDES client knows which one to pick, which one will work most efficiently for the use case of replication and synchronization. The second thing is on transaction support. So we'll at this moment the LDES client will always process members separately. However, there's a possibility that, for example, let's say in the railway infrastructure case, where if you are adding tracks, well, it doesn't make sense to stop or to pause in your processing of tracks when you do not have a full railway line yet, for example. So we would like to introduce these transactions as things like, look, we are adding railway segments over here, but it is complete from the one that you actually got all the railway segments, so that you have the full update of everything that was added in one go, or everything that must be added in one go, so that you actually have a graph that works for you, because otherwise you will not be able to query over something that is coherent. So that transaction support is coming. Then things like at this moment you can already flag that certain pages of your event stream are immutable through caching headers. We also want to have it in the body, or that was opened as a feature request. Same thing for the polling interval. Like could we have an indication about this page? Okay, it will change, but what should a client do? Like in what kind of period of time should it check again for updates, and to have like a client directive in that sense, the provider saying like, look, consumer, please poll it with this kind of interval. There's a big one on the semantics of timestamp path for having members in order. What does that mean? There's and a couple of other things there, but I'm still also in the second part of this thing. I'm still going to go into more detail into these things as well. And all these things, these will fix these open GitHub issues as well. In order to have a definition of timestamp path, in order to have the definition of event source there, talk about named graphs and activity-like examples in the spec, make sure that we have better retention policies. I'll discuss the problem with the current retention policies at the end of the presentation as well, and these caching directives over here. And good news, we already 1 week before the workshop next week, we now opened a pull request that is now ready for being reviewed. So if you go to this this link, you'll now see that there's a complete rewrite with the changelog on it, and there's already a couple of people that, or one person that is already commenting on it in order to make sure that it's super clear. But the changes are documented over here, and what issues it is already fixing. This is a basis, or this would be a basis to then document in more detail, or to advance the spec with the issues in more detail. So this is where we really need your help. Like this is now me that has gathered all the input from all the issues from the document of Flanders, and made sure that we have a new starting point on which we can start building these features. But this is really the basis. This pull request will put forward the basis for that. So this is probably the most important pull request to now start reviewing. So I call upon all of you to maybe take out a couple of an hour or 2 or 3 maybe in your agenda by next week. Comment on the pull request so that we can have a very good discussion next week, whether it's going to just be an accept and merge, or whether it's conditionally accepted, or whether we just reject it altogether. But then we will have a big problem, I think, for the rest of the trajectory. So I hope we will end up with consensus on that pull request. Then that was quite in detail what we will do next week, yeah? And then we'll also really dive into and prepare slides and make sure that we discuss the GitHub issues and the pull requests there in more detail. But what will we do for workshop 2 and 3? On workshop 2, it's the idea to discuss iterating over a linked data event stream, and somehow also giving clear instructions about how LDES clients must be built and how they must work, basically, their base algorithm, and how they need to keep the state of things. Yeah, and there also a request is then to have some indications of error handling of HTTP codes, because at this moment, you can imagine that an LDES client wants to. Well, yeah, if you have an LDES that already has about 2,000 pages there, an LDES client will want to reach all these 2,000 pages as fast as possible. The only problem is that some HTTP systems will rate limit, for example, or will send try later as an HTTP response, and so on. So we need to also standardize and really clearly indicate what kind of error handling that the LDES client needs to do there. Also, an important point that we want is that if there's a retention policy of 1 hour, for example, and you are starting an LDES client and say like, oh yeah, you can just on that source just poll each day, for example, an error should be thrown because that's illegal according to the retention policy. It will be impossible that you are in sync because you will miss 23 hours of a day of updates because the retention policy is only for 1 hour long. I see there's a question in the chat. I'll quickly take that one. Mantas is asking whether there will be LDES spec versioning. So at this moment, the specification is indicated as a living document, which I think then it can change. Also the idea that like the normative aspect of it was rather low, as it was more vocabulary with usage notes. So I think we can now really start versioning after this this trajectory, and then it's really the idea to have indeed to have a stable 1.0 spec by SEMIC, and to then see whether we actually still will need updates of the LDES spec afterwards, but that's to be seen. I think the governance of LDES is still something that is at this moment under discussion at SEMIC about how exactly it will work, but it will be documented and provided to all of you transparently. Good. And then workshop 2 will focus on only 3 GitHub issues, but they're quite big GitHub issues there. And then workshop 3 will zoom in on the server primer, where the idea is to give best practices and discuss again quite a lot. There's also a very interesting point here on providing shackle shapes. So at this moment, there's not really a way to validate that a server will work for a certain client, but a client basically is now, or the spec is being now set up as, hey, this is what a client must do and must implement and so on. And from that, we can actually derive an application profile. So the application profile in the most precise definition of what that means is, of course, hey, my client will work if your server adheres to this schema or to this profile. So so the idea is to also create shackle shapes so that you can validate when you have a root node or when you have a subsequent node or a subsequent page from your LDES, that you can validate that using a shackle shape. And Ranko Orlik, Ranko, how do you pronounce your last name? In fact, is it Orlich or Orlik?
Yeah, the last one was great, Orlich.
Orlich, okay, yeah. My apologies for asking
okay,
this.
Okay.
Yeah. But Ranko already made a really good proposal for the 3 specification. We can extend it towards also LDES based shackle shapes there as well. That will also, I think, help adoption a lot if you just know whether you validate or not, or whether a client will be able to do it based on a shackle validation. So that's the idea. The server primer will also really focus on performance. So at this moment, there are a lot of nodes or there is a node, for example, in the LDES spec saying, just a pagination like next. That will work fine. Just do that. However, a next pagination is really inefficient. And this is what we want to certainly change with the server primer, is that we want to default to a chronological search tree, so that you're always working in a chronological search tree, so that your clients can parallelize traversing multiple parts of the event stream, and has some freedom in what order it traverses the event stream. It can traverse it backwards or forward and so on. That's all to the client to decide how to do that. So that chronological search tree is what we want to default to. We also want to add a streaming profile on top of that, which also really helps with the parsing. We'll have a note on relative IRIs, because that's much desired in systems. That's what we noticed in each case when building the toolchain in Flanders as well, and so on and so forth. This is what we're going to discuss there. And there are also quite some issues that are really just basically server primer related that we're going to solve in that go. And with these 3 workshops, we should be able to limit the 30 open issues that are available now on in the repository. We should be able to work our way through them and almost hit 0 there. I'm saying almost because I think about 2 or 3 are not in there at this point, but we can still discuss that maybe afterwards. that was my full explanation about LDES, where it's going, what we're going to do in 2025, how you can help. So discuss on the issues. Certainly also review the pull requests before the idea, so that indeed, as Mantas and Ranko said in the chat, that we can go towards a 1.0 LDES specification that will indeed make it possible in the future to do a validation and a certification of, yes, you're LDES compliant, you're entirely LDES compliant. Good. Q&A. Are there any questions on the top of your mind? Anything that was still too vague about the trajectory? Because the slides afterwards are going to be are just going to explain the current state of 3 LDES again, and is going to run through the current spec and then tell, look, these are all the details that still need to be fixed in this trajectory, basically. No questions anymore. We, of course, already took some questions. Or was someone speaking?
Maybe I can ask a question. If I understood correctly, will there be possibility to put LDES on top of Kafka streaming? That in the backend there will be a Kafka those channels, and on top of that LDES messages.
That's certainly
something
possible.
Unrelated.
Yeah, that's certainly possible, and there has been already implementations that done it that way. So maybe Sander, you want to chip in there, or?
Yes, well, it's definitely something that we have been discussing in the past as well, and there is a big overlap. I mean, in terms of, it would be a natural fit to build an LDES on top of a Kafka broker, for instance. Whereas, I mean, LDES would definitely be a very nice way of publishing a Kafka topic that containing semantic data anonymously on the web. I mean, if because that is a bit the limitation in one way or another of a Kafka cluster is that typically you will not just publish a Kafka cluster anonymously on the web, allowing people to subscribe to a topic, and LDES could definitely be a way to.
But there has been already implementations like it. For example, in Flanders, there was the address registry, or there is the address registry that is now not yet public, I think, the LDES, but it's getting close to production at this moment. But they actually have a Kafka in the back, and then they put an LDES server on top of it that just listens in on that Kafka and then publishes that stream in that way. Of course, the benefit of it are you have the full interoperability ID there. You have the discovery aspect of LDES. You have the fact that the full history can be there if you want it, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So it's certainly something that can. Yeah, you can use a Kafka, but you can equally as well use a relational database. You can equally as well use a MongoDB. You can equally as well use anything. It basically, an LDES is just a abstraction layer on top of whatever you have in the back, and publish your data as a stream. Yeah. Good. Then I propose that we just continue, as there are no questions here, because now we're going to the onboarding. I had some fun with picking the emojis for that, because it's like we are onboarding. We're at a bus stop, and now we're taking you to the next stop of workshop 1. So a walk through the LDES spec at this moment, and I see my emoji here fell off. How is that possible? Okay, too bad. Because I over here had a nice fish emoji over here, and the idea is that that like in the biblical sense of when you give someone a fish, they will be how does that go? I should have practiced this proverb. But if you give a man a fish, they will be hungry no more for one day. But if you teach a man to fish, they will be no more hungry for the rest of their lifetime, of course. And in the same way, I think that LDES is being positioned in the semantic interoperability world. In that sense, that integrating a data dump is just a one-off, and you can help someone to really map something to linked data and make it semantically interoperable. The only problem is it will be interoperable for one day, and then it will end. And now the only thing that we're doing with linked data event streams is now say like, look, this dump idea is nice with the triples in it. Okay, that's very, very beautiful that we have semantic interoperability. But how about we do it for the rest of our lifetime? How the lifetime of the data set? But how about we make sure that integrating a stream that way is for a lifetime? Because what are you going to do? You're going to work against the updates of the data sets, and the updates are in the future, but also you'll work on the historical updates so that you actually in the end have the full data set there managed. And the LDES client then in that sense, or an LDES client will be given a start URL or an entry point, as I like to call it. I really like the word entry point for the reason that a lot of other APIs use the word endpoint. And endpoint, I find that a horrendous word, because it's not where it's going to end, it's where you're going to start, right? So over here, it's like I like to call it an entry point, because it's the first URL of many more that you will actually traverse, of many more that you'll find. So given a start URL or an entry point, an LDES client will return a stream of members of the corresponding LDES event stream. And what will happen is that first the history that is available from this entry point will be emitted, so update by update. And once the client has caught up with the stream, it will remain synchronized as new members are published. So an LDES client is not something that you say like, I will run it once. No, you actually need to plan on apologies. You actually need to plan on, am I going to run it on a schedule, like every day or something, or am I going to just keep it running as a daemon on my system, so that it keeps spitting out these mappers. Both modes are possible, running on a schedule, on a cron job, for example, or in a GitHub Actions, for example, or in a CI/CD system, or it's also possible to just keep it running inside the daemon. There is my fish. Okay, it was my animation was weird. The fish comes later. Good. And in order to achieve that, we built a vocabulary, the LDES vocabulary, that is already around for quite a while. And the LDES vocabulary is built on top of the 3 hypermedia specification. The 3 hypermedia specification is something that we standardize in another group. So that's a W3C community group that we work in. That really standardizes the hypermedia aspect. So the hypermedia links, and again applies linked data on the fact that you have a structure of documents that you can traverse, and that you can understand why you would jump from one page to another. Is it relevant to my client or not to actually do that? The community overlaps a bit with the SEMIC LDES group over here. For example, I know that Sander is there. I know that Ranko is there. I know that Xiu Ying is there, and Arthur, Julian, Dwight. So there are a couple of people that are also joining that group. If you would also like to join, there's a link over here. If you're really interested also in the deep down technical aspects of hypermedia, you can also join that community group over there. Good. And that is then to discuss the 3 hypermedia specification that is available at this link. A client at this point needs to be a tree client as well. An LDES client needs to implement the tree hypermedia specification. We only didn't define until now really what parts of the tree hypermedia specification are the most important to implement for LDES, because implementing it entirely is also not the goal, I think, because it also contains ideas about geospatial querying, for example, or substring querying. These things are less relevant to a client that just wants to replicate the full data set. But it opens the door, of course, to building smarter clients if you want to. That, for example, only sync with a geospatial region, or that only sync with things that contain a certain substring. So that's also something that you could build in the future, but I leave that up to you. That this is not something we would discuss in the next standardization workshops. Good. So in order to understand that tree specification, I brought an example, a very simple example. It's also the example that's part of the that is documented in the spec. The idea is that we have a collection of members, and with members we mean like you say that you have a collection of members, and these members are for example subject 1 and subject 2. And they contain more triples in the current page. They have more triples about that thing. So this is basically how tree works. So we have over here the fact that we typed our collection to a tree collection. We have a tree view link over here, which basically says, hey, the current page, and this is something we used a relative IRI here, so a relative URL towards the current page, basically. And the current page is actually a way to view the collection. This is basically how you need to read this. So a client will be looking for this tree view triple to find the collection this page contains a fragment of. So the client this way knows that, look, I'm on one of the pages of this collection, and on this page I can find 2 members, basically subject 1 and subject 2. That's the idea. And I'm a big fan of Turtle, so like I think everyone should just switch to Turtle for serializing their data. But of course, I'm a stupid academic. What do I know about the real world? So of course you can use any RDF serialization that takes your preference. For example, we also have a JSON-LD context already in the spec that you can use in order to do something like this. Where you just say like, I have an ID, my collection, it's a type 3 collection. The tree view, again, I can also use a relative IRI here in JSON-LD, and I put my members over here in JSON objects, but then in JSON-LD, of course, that's also perfect. I see a couple of questions. I see Mantas one-upping my I like Turtle, so high five, Mantas. Fully agree, yes. And then Elf is going to be pedantic. At the W3C community group, you can only publish reports, while working groups can publish official standards. That's true. And at the same time, those official standards are called technical reports to make everything even more confusing. Yes, Alf, I'm sorry. I'm usually also very pedantic about using the right terms when it comes to that. Where did I go wrong? Basically, Alf, did I call it a standard?
No, it's okay. I think sometimes specification may be confusing if it's standard official specification or is it CG report. So I just, in case people are not familiar with those nuances, I just wanted to clarify that.
So I will never call it. Mm-hmm. So I indeed, I will certainly never use call the tree specification a standard yet. A standard is something that's that is reserved for working groups. At this moment, the W3C tree is a community group, which over here it says that it's a draft community group report at this moment. That's the official status of it at this point. But we call it the tree hypermedia specification basically. So that's the name of the group report.
Apologies for interrupting.
No worries. It's I actually like this kind of pedanticism, basically. Yeah. Good. So that's what we already said. So the feature of the tree specification, what does it do? Well, it will also help an LDES client with the initialization. It will tell an LDES client to look at the tree view here when it does that. It will help the LDES client to be serialization independent. You can use any RDF serialization there, or at least the most common, the ones that are supported by the LDES clients. And then a second thing is member extraction. And member extraction has proven to be quite a controversy in the tree community group already, because it's where the regular JSON world with like the RDF world is a little bit colliding. When you would put something like this in JSON, it would show up nicely as one JSON object, right? And if you run the LDES client, you would just expect that what would it emit is, of course, every of these objects. However, in the RDF view, we don't see these objects. These objects are not a thing, right? So we in the RDF world, we need to specify exactly what triples we want that the LDES client will emit based on when it encounters a member. Because over here it's quite okay, right? We can over here say that it's we will extract all statements related to a member based on the star pattern, basically. So the star patterns meaning that I will fill out the subject over here, and we'll make sure that that we get all the triples that use that as a subject, and we'll extract that. However, it can become more tedious. For example, in this example, where you would say that we have a named graph in the mix, but we also have multiple triples about that subject 1. For example, now we used subject 1 version 1, and we used example subject 1 version 2 over here. So we have 2 different members, but they're versions of subject 1. So which means that we have 2 times a triple, one time example subject 1 value 1, and another time example subject 1 value 2. So basically, if we would start extracting this and we would encounter the fact that subject 1 versus 1 is a version of subject 1 over here, what do we now need to do? Do we need to follow this named node, and do we need to embed it and also do it? Well, that would result in having to extract both x subject 1 value 1 and x subject 1 value 2. Because, well, we have a named graph, okay, so we could disambiguate based on the named graph, but the named graph in general RDF terms, it could be used for anything, so it's not per se for shielding shielding the context of triples. So what do we do within the tree hypermedia community group? Well, we certainly define the fact that we don't go into named nodes, certainly not blindly, but we will, however, get all the terms that are in the named apologies. So we will get the star pattern, but we will go into blank nodes, but we will not go into further these IRIs, into expanding them further or expanding the star patterns there further. We will, however, join them with or union them with the triples that are in the named graph of the member. And so we will use so if over here you have subject 1 version 1, we'll also include the triples that are inside this named graph. So this is basically something that was added. That was a big discussion in the tree community group. that now we landed upon, and still we are debating about details today, because we have some advanced algorithms to then, if you have a shackle shape annotated with it, you can also extract more, because the shackle shapes clearly indicate that more triples will be provided about this. So you should go deeper into that. But there we are softening that requirement at this point. So that's the member extraction algorithms. Really clear indications on what a client, what kind of triples from the provider it must pass on to a next step. What happens after the LDES client? What bundle of triples does it need to pass, or triples, quads, in fact. Then a third big feature of the tree specification, and yeah, this is of course why it's called the tree specification, is traversing a search tree, because we've seen that when it comes to hypermedia, a lot of specs almost stop at paginating with next. So just providing a next link towards something. However, I'm not the biggest fan of the next link, because a client cannot decide a lot based on a next link. Basically, what do you need to do? Well, basically, you can only answer the question as a client: do I have enough information? If not, I must follow the next link. Now, well, of course, a client has some more information. For example, it is interested in everything that happened in 2025. If it's only interested in things that happen in 2025, and I see a link towards something that will only contain data in 2024, I don't need to follow that link, so I can just disregard it. And that's the idea of the tree specification, that we have a more elaborate search tree that a client can then decide whether to follow a certain link or not. It's a simple idea. We designed it as a lightweight spec, but of course, getting it right, it then becomes a little bit bigger than what you want to. But it's available there. So how do you describe that? Well, you can provide a relation like this. So on the current page, you say that I have a relation R1. That R1 will link to another node over here, as it's the tree specification. We'll call each page a node in the search tree in that sense. And we have a greater than or equal to relation here of value 3. So everything that we'll find on that other node will be 3 or larger than 3 or greater than 3, and it will be based on the x value thing. So over here the value was 2 and 1 on the first page. Well, if you follow this link, you'll find everything that's greater or equal to 3. And that's quite a cool addition. It's been a part of my research, at least for the past 5 years already. Good. I'm checking the chat. Bert, you had a question. And what with inverse relationships? Yeah.
Yeah. So on the members, in your example of the membership calculation. There you always assumed subject and then going down in that direction, but it might be saying, okay, I have something pointing about this subject, and this is relevant because this is the vocabulary actually says point to this subject, and this is important that we express it in this way according to the vocabulary.
Yeah. Okay. Very good question. What with the inverse relations? What, for example, if I have an organization with members, and these members are these subjects, which means that, okay, I'm linking from the organization into the subject, but I also want the triples about that organization. I also want them to be part of that subject member, basically. Well, that was one of the things that we debated a lot about. And the result, the final result at this moment, is that they're not included by default, but you can annotate that shackle shape on top of it. And if you do, you can also optionally, as the LDES client, also fetch the full thing as intended by the data provider, and then also follow these inverse relationships. So there's a way to enable it, but it won't be by default. And if you want to be 100% sure, because as I don't know if Ruben de Decker is also in the call, but we just had a discussion also this morning, or he analyzed this thing as well this morning, and he called that this entire shape topology ID with shackle shapes and the idea of the concise bounded descriptions that we use at the star pattern plus the blank nodes, that this is basically like a best effort, and it can never be perfect. But if you want to be sure as a data provider about the packaging of your triples, you must use a named graph. Yeah. So that's
Thanks.
also why we are really pushing for more named graph implementation reports and examples and so on, because we really think that it's quite important to have clarity on that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So this is then the overview of tree, which I'm really happy that we can keep it quite simple. So we have the tree collection links to a shape, so that's the shape that the members will adhere to. So you can validate each member on that shackle shape. Then we have the link towards the current page with tree view. It can optionally also describe the full view, not only the root node, for example, but it can also describe, I have an event source, for example, something that we would do in LDES. But it can describe the search tree, or it can also link up to DCAT data then. It could link up to DCAT distribution or to DCAT data service, depends on how you see a tree collection, so, or the search tree of tree. Some people would say like, it's more of a DCAT distribution. Others would say like it's more of a DCAT data service. Maybe you know that Bert was just asking a question. Where are you on that fence? Like, do you see the search tree more as the data service or more as the distribution?
The search tree. I have to think over it, Peter.
Yeah. Because it's certainly it's almost becoming a holy discussion almost in that sense. Like how do you comply to DCAT perfectly, or what exactly is a data service? Is it a server publishing multiple data sets, or can it also be just one? And yeah, I think it's always
to a certain extent. Peter, I think you have to see what you want to put in the market, and then it's exactly. In that sense, is it a bit holy in the sense of the discussion, what I'm putting in the market, and if you go deeper in then what you want to put in the market, then you see other aspects, and you could call it as well a data set or a distribution, depending on how you put it in the market.
Yeah.
So this is one of.
So this is the reason also why we just allow both. So you can map your search tree to a data service, but you can also map it to a distribution, depending on how you see or how you want to put it in the market, as you say indeed. Yeah. Good. So that's tree hypermedia. This is not about LDES in that sense, because you can just have a collection of things and then publish it in a search tree. Wait, I'll quickly follow the chat at the same time. Ranko says, in my honest opinion, a bit of guidance on how to map the LDESs in DCAT is advisable because people will be confused. True. And I think Julian, who's in the call here as well, is currently working on a report in the tree community group that will also work on the that will elaborate on that in the discovery spec, right, Julian?
Yes. So the idea is to have a specification and see how we can potentially extend DCAT, so to form that link and to enable also on-the-fly discovery of data sets or LDESs, or in that direction, starting from DCAT catalogs.
Yeah. And just Ranko, people will certainly be confused because just to indicate that, for example, yesterday we had a call. I think Nuno was also in that call, but it took us quite a while to really understand. Like, we are talking about DCAT, but do you mean DCAT in order to find a certain LDES in a catalog, or do you mean putting DCAT entities inside an LDES so that we can synchronize different data catalogs with each other? So that's also the DCAT AP feeds is that other case of just syncing data catalogs with each other. So it certainly will become confusing at some point. So I hope that we can navigate our way in this confusing with these and make sure that there's clarity in that sense on what exactly what we try to do. Good, but we now talked about tree. So basically the question is, what does LDES do then? Well, LDES doesn't use the concept of a tree collection. No, it's subclasses. It makes a subclass of a tree collection, and we call it an event stream. But an event stream is just basically a collection that can then also be mapped to a shackle shape, so that all the members can be put on there. It has a view in the same way. It uses that view description to then potentially link towards, hey, this is the search tree that's going to provide the event source for things. It also provides the retention policy or describes retention policies on it. And otherwise, it's just a tree collection as well. The big addition is that in an LDES event stream, all the members are things that you can never edit or delete. So once something is part of a linked data event stream, it will be part of the event stream forever. It's an append-only log. Think about it conceptually about like a ledger that you just keep adding at the bottom of the list, keep adding things. But the first item will always be part of the thing forever. Think about it as a Kafka topic as well. Conceptually, the thing is has always appeared on the stream, but with a retention policy, this particular server could have no access anymore or removed it from their disk. Conceptually, it's still part of the event stream, but look, this root node or this node or this event source basically does not have does not publish anymore data that is older than a certain point, for example. Then a question of Mantas: are there any plans to add UML diagram according to the SEMIC style guide? There are no plans currently, and but given that you asked the question, I would believe that there's some added value in doing that. So maybe we should actually consider it. Isabeau and Emil certainly take note of this, and let's discuss this whether we should do this. Yeah. So this then becomes an example of an LDES. Wait, I forgot to explain these two properties because they're quite powerful in that sense. Is that we point to a timestamp path and we point to a version of path. A timestamp path points, so it's called a path and not a property because it can point to something deeper down in the structure, to a timestamp that then decides the order of the events of the event stream. So basically, if you then need to decide whether a member was earlier or later than a certain thing, you need to look at that property. From the moment that you use timestamp path, you cannot publish something out of order, as well as a producer of that LDES. A version of path points at the property that you will, or the literal that you will. It's not literal, of course. It's an IRI that you will use in order to say that something is a version of something else. But this becomes clearer over here, where we say that our collection 1 is now an event stream. We'll use that subject 1 version 1 example again that we used earlier. And we'll say that, look, the current page that we are on is actually publishing this event stream. All the members will adhere to a certain shape. We have a timestamp path, so all our members will follow the order of DC terms created over here. And we also have a version of path, because we will say that all the members are versions of things, and that we follow the DC terms is version of property there to find out what it is about. Yeah? And we have two members of that event stream over here: subject 1 version 1 and subject 1 version 2. Subject 1 version 1 over here is a version of subject 1. It was created at a certain point, and it contains a payload in a named graph over here. And same thing for version 2. What do we do if it needs to update? We just add it to the page, basically. And if it's added to the page, the client visits the page again, sees, this was added and I didn't see it before. I will emit this to my end user. So in that sense, as a producer, we try to make it as easy as possible to produce an LDES. Basically, you can just put one file online. And a file, okay, like it's weird to see a file as a stream, but basically the fact that a client will expect the file to update and to contain new things makes the file as well an event stream in that sense. At least we clearly said that it's an event stream because we typed it event stream over here as well. So by just describing this page that way, we make sure that the LDES client can understand how updates will appear in this file. Kind of like an RSS feed in that sense. If you think about it, RSS Atom also works in a very similar fashion. It's just you just visit that RSS feed again. You see the order of the news articles in it. So it's so you could say that it's heavily inspired on this. But what if a page now grows too large? Because that's the big novelty, I think, what we do with LDES is that if we have this idea of the event stream and that multiple things can be there, we can have at some point the fact that it becomes really inefficient to check if there's a new item, because I will need to go through the entire list of items again. So I better keep where it is getting updated. I better keep that page quite small if I want it to be efficient for clients to fetch. So what are we going to look into? One is fragmenting or data sets, so that it's not one page, but that has multiple pages. And if we have multiple pages, we need to create links between them, or relations, we'll call them. And then the second thing that we will introduce are retention policies, to really say, like, look, I do not have the budget to keep the full history of this thing on my server. There could be another server somewhere on the web that actually archived this LDES, and there you can then find the full history. But in this in this view, I will only keep, for example, 1 hour of data, something like that we can explain that. So using tree relations to fragment is then a solution. And we can fragment that event stream as a chronological search tree in this sense. So you start at that root node, you just get relations to, for example, months in 2025. These months, you will see that they contain members over here. And then if I go to the current month, I actually have day pages, so I can actually go deeper again. I can basically decide myself how I structure that. If I have periods where there's a lot of data, I could create more pages, for example, if that's something that's important to me. But I can also create bigger pages if I want to, depending on what exactly I want to optimize for. And then the second thing are retention policies, and there are 3 types of retention policies at this moment in the spec. So if this is like the event stream of things getting added to the stream, what we'll do is we'll have something that I already indicated. The duration ago retention policy is a sliding window based on a duration. So the period of 1 day, for example, this is the size of that window, and each time that something falls out of the window, the server might actually remove it from disk. They might also still keep it in cache somewhere. That's possible, but there's no promise anymore of the server to actually keep that available to everyone. A second type of retention policy is a point-in-time policy. The point-in-time policy is, for example, when you decided based on an event source that publishes data with a duration ago policy, for example, that you decided like, from this moment on, I want to, I will also archive this event stream, and from this point in time on, I will keep the full history. So starting TI, so there's a bit of history that is lost over here, but there's a point in time policy, so this history will keep growing basically as time moves forward. And then there's a third type of retention policy, and that's based on the versions. So based on the version of path, you can understand that, look, I have a subject version 1 and I have a subject version 2. Maybe it's not relevant at all that I keep all versions of my things, and maybe I'm only interested in keeping the last version of my thing in it, or maybe the 5 last versions of my thing, and I will remove everything that's beforehand. Well, you can do that with the latest version subset, which then will make sure that a lot of these intermediate things are gone. But still, there might be something from entirely in the beginning that still didn't get an update that is still in the spec, that is still in the LDES over there. So this is about retention policies, and as far as I know, we are the first linked data specification that talks about retention policies on the web, or retention policies of servers in that sense. I would love to stand corrected, because I really looked for existing vocabularies that would define retention policies. So if you would find something, please let me know, because I want to, of course, to be inspired to so that we can maybe steal some ideas with the LDES retention policies. Good. That's an overview of the most important parts of 3 LDES. I think if you understand this, I think you understand the full current specification. But the current specification, however, is at a state where it really needs an update. That's of course why we are here. I included some screenshots of the current LDES specification now, and I want to discuss which parts are outdated, which parts are not in sync anymore sometimes with the 3 specification, which parts just need to be removed because they don't carry any value. They just indicate like maybe some kind of practice, not even a best practice. So there are certain things that certainly can be removed, can be added, need some clarity, and so on in the spec. And it starts with the abstract over there. And in the abstract, we just say a linked data event stream is a blah, 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 just a definition of what a linked data event stream is. Instead, I want to change it to an abstract that really tells why you should read the spec. Over here, now you don't really know why you should read the spec and why you should implement the spec. So I really want that consumer-oriented aspect again in it. And I wanted to include the fact that, do you want to build a consumer that is able to replicate the history, use retention policies, and so on? Then you can continue implementing this spec. Then the spec continues with the introduction at this moment, which is again valid. I think it mainly says that it defines the term event stream. Again, it now says also that it's subclassing of the 3 collection, something that's certainly true. And then it talks about the fact that it uses the 3 specification. It says we use the 3 specification. It could be much clearer to tell the consumers about the fact that, hey, you must implement these chapters from the 3 specification if you want to have an LDES compliant spec there. We also mention over here compatibility to other specifications. I don't think that the compatibility should be should be mentioned that early on, and I don't think that claiming compatibility is so important over here either. So that's something that what I'm concerned should go. Then we included a note that, and in that note we basically just link to a reference implementation. The reference implementation at this points at a deprecated version of an LDES client that was built by us. So at least it should be updated, maybe that link. But then again, I wonder whether we should really have a one link in the normative spec then towards one specific client. I think we should maybe have a separate report in the LDES specifications that just talks about multiple LDES clients, links to multiple LDES clients, and also tells how much they actually implement the LDES spec in that. Then of course, if it's more testable, we should actually be able to point at, yes, it implements that part of the tree spec correctly. Yes, it implements that part of the LDES spec correctly, and so on. So that's something that I would like to see in a matrix. But this is something for from the moment that we have the new spec, then we can really also think about building that. Good. So then we point at the tree specification. LDES is built on top of it, and we should be very clear about how to do it, and also a link to that discovery specification that Julian is at this moment working on as well. Then the spec continues towards saying that, including a example. I think it's valid. It's a sensor observation example that still stands. Is okay. Then it includes continues with an explanation of what a event stream instance should have. It should have these properties. However, that's again from a producer point of view. Yeah, it should have. Well, yeah, if it doesn't, the client will not really work. But yeah, then on the web, I think everything is a should, as long as what is your goal specifically? Well, I think we should be way more specific about this. Our goal is that an LDES client that wants to replicate the full history and then stay in sync with the event stream, that works on top of it. So in that sense, we should apply the must, should, may terminology, and we should review it precisely across the spec. And mind that I wrote a lot of this text, so I'm just criticizing my own work here. I can be very, very harsh. I think I can be very harsh against my historic self, I think. Yeah. Good. Then it continues with a second example, introducing version identifiers, but it introduces version identifiers without introducing named graphs, which I find horrible. From now on, I really want to default to named graphs, and I really don't want this system anymore where we say like, okay, this is a version of something, and then immediately includes also the triples about this version here. Because it started creating systems where we actually had to do some triple swapping if you wanted to understand, okay, what is this data about? Okay, it is about address record 1 has a title this. And okay, in the version 1, it had this, but maybe in a future version, it will have something else. And you would have to turn around the subject and the object there quite a lot, which is just annoying because you have to work in two kind of triple modes there. So I think the named graphs solution is a much more elegant way of looking at it. So this is something that it then would become. So that, for example, if we mention street names, we can say that it was created at a certain moment, now using the activity streams vocabulary, that now we don't use DC terms as version of, but we use activity streams object. So it's street name 1 that was created, and it was published, the event was published at a certain moment. And then we can really talk about our street name 1 has a label Station Road, for example. It was located in that municipality. And thanks to the named graph, we can also just add this other triple that municipality name is Ghent, for example. We can also just add this to it. Good. It also elaborates on how to apply the tree spec then. In chapter 2, it talks about fragmenting and pagination. That's of course a big aspect of it. But again, I want to remove that from the spec because one, we already say that an LDES client will in the rewrite, we will say that it must implement these chapters from the tree specification, and there we have a much better explanation of how to traverse a search tree basically, and how to prune certain branches and so on. So we should just refer to that. And over here, it's more like a server primer feel. Like this is like, if you want to do this as a server, you must do it do it this way. So I want to also move these kind of examples. I want to move them towards the server primer, and then really elaborate on a chronological search tree rather than a one-dimensional pagination. Ranko has a question. Should we specify which vocabulary to use, preferably for the LDES path? For example, activity streams, DC terms, and so on. I think that in different kind of domains, you will have different preferences. For example, in the cultural heritage domain, there's a big preference to go for IIIF change discovery, which actually uses activity streams again to do that. However, in DCAT, for example, you have a specific concept of a dataset record that then also indicates whether it was created or not. So maybe in DCAT, we will actually use a DCAT native way of doing it. While at this moment, DCAT AP feeds spec in the pilot, we used activity streams. But I think in the future, we might actually consider that DCAT's native way of addressing these records. In the library world, then again, they will use DC terms, because Dublin Core really started in the library world. So if you're talking about these kind of things, I think they might prefer DC terms. So I don't think we can specify which one to use for LDES. That's why we made it configurable. That's why we really made it a path towards towards what we want to indicate. As well, in this example over here, we are in the world of sensor observations, and in sensor observations, they're certainly not going to use activity streams. That's way off what they want to do. But they are going to use, for example, for the timestamp path, they are going to use, for example, SOSA result time. If you use SSN SOSA, if you use SAREF, you would again use something else. So according to the domain model that you really put in the members, and we really want to be domain agnostic so that we have a domain agnostic solution for replication and synchronization, so that you can just plug in your domain. So this is the idea that we always point towards it. However, in the server primer, we can give a couple of ideas. I would, for sensor data, for example, give an example with SSN SOSA. For activity streams, I would also give the example, of course, with create, update, delete, and so on. I think that is certainly useful to document as good practices of how to do it. Yeah. And over here, even more server primer-like nodes are following. These really belong in a separate document, I think. And there, I fully reject, in fact, these 3 parts that are on this thing. So there was then a May on the import stream. So the idea was that if you have a latest page and you also want to provide a PubSub interface, because maybe you have a PubSub interface on top of your system, it's not the most performant often or not the most cost-efficient thing to host often, but maybe from a client perspective, maybe you just want to use a PubSub interface there. Well, we had a property for that, 3 import stream. However, it was never implemented. It was never tested. It's not really clear exactly how to implement it. So instead of specifying it, we didn't have a use case for it. We didn't have a use case for that. We didn't have an LDES at this time, or anyone in the LDES community that really had a system that really required a PubSub interface at this moment. So we didn't have the use case to really now say, we are going to specify exactly how to specify the PubSub interface on top of it. And there are already other specs that can do that perfectly. For example, I'm thinking in the solid world, you have the link data notifications spec as well. So there are a couple of things. There's solid WebSockets as well. So there are a couple of things that you could already use in that sense. So we just removed it. So I think we should remove it from the spec over here. Then on this first note here, I disagree with myself from the past. Back then I just said, please just create a one-dimensional pagination. It will be very easy for you as a server producer or an LDES producer. It will be very easy for you to generate an LDES, and that's what we really wanted to prioritize, the fact that we would have many LDESs. But a one-dimensional pagination is no better than just saying next, 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 next. And that's very inefficient. And what if you don't want to follow it in that order? And what if you want to follow it in a backwards order? Then you get with a headache that you actually need to run through the list first and then go in a backwards direction. Or some people were thinking then about, but we can also include a reference to the entire last page so that people can immediately jump to the last page and then go back. But the problem is that you don't have a search tree anymore, and then you get a graph of data, and then you basically get into a lot of different, very difficult traversal techniques that you need to implement in the LDES client. So we shouldn't go that way, because if you have a chronological search tree, you can choose whether you go backwards or whether you go forward through the spec. Yeah. So that's that was the idea. Also, the Hydra search that we documented over there was also patchwork to then say, if you have a one-dimensional thing, you can jump to specific page. Or if you have a chronological search tree, you actually don't have that problem. You can just traverse it to exactly the timestamp you want, and you'll have just a file-based structure that you can descend if you want to. It wouldn't require any dynamic server functionality there. So all of this, what I'm concerned, just needs to go. Then we had a section on retention policies, which we decided to largely keep. I think it was quite okay. It's also pretty important for backwards compatibility that we keep the semantics of these terms intact. However, there are a couple of things that really smell a little bit too much to server primer again. Versus normative things that the client needs to do. So we rewrote this as well already towards clear indications about what you must do as a client with retention policies. And the main use cases there are checking whether you are fast enough to get a valid replication. What I said earlier as well with retention policies is that if you get a retention policy of 1 hour on a certain agent, and you decided to configure your client that it will only fetch it every day, yeah, that's a problem, because you will miss out on 23 hours of information. So then we certainly need to give an error in that sense. A second thing is source selection. If you want to have a client that does it every 24 hours, then maybe I want to interpret the retention policy so that I know that, look, I'm certainly going to look for a retention policy where I'm certain that it will be more than 24 hours in that sense. Today, however, the main purpose is metadata to manually select the right search tree. So I think source selection is hinting towards, we can do it automatically in the future, like selecting the right search tree. But today, the main purpose is the fact that you annotate it, and then you can show it in an editor or something, and then understand that, okay, this retention policy applies, and you would manually select it in that case. Not much different than how a DCAT data portal works in that sense. So maybe we can also see this as interesting data that we could show on a DCAT data portal in that sense. And we then continue with a couple of subsections on the specific retention policies, the time-based retention policy, version-based retention policy, and the point-in-time retention policy. These examples are kept in the current rewrites, and we keep it there. However, by next week, we are also going to open up a couple of other pull requests, proposing for more advanced retention policies, because these three, believe it or not, they do not yet cut all use cases that we currently have. We are going to introduce transactions, so we also need to probably add some text on what retention policies, can they break transaction boundaries and things like that. Second thing is that we might want to have a different retention policy specifically for deletions. This popped up, for example, in the DCAT AP feeds implementation report. Over there, you basically have a latest version subset saying that I just want to keep the last version of all data sets. I'm not interested in much in the history, but every time something changed, I certainly want to synchronize and get that latest version of it. I want to adopt that in my system. The history, however, I'm not interested in. So I have a latest version subset. However, if in 2010, for example, in your data portal, you once added a test data set and then removed it again, that means that according to that retention policy, that removal activity, that deletion activity should always be in the spec until the end of time, because that's what the latest version subset means. It's also the latest version with the deletion. So what we want to introduce here is a new kind of retention policy, and yeah, we are still drafting it in the issue on it at this moment. Still talking about it. So if you want to weigh in, please do. And we are trying to say like, look, for deletions, this it points at, for example, activity streams delete, was it activity that we then can say that these we only keep for 1 week, for example, so that after 1 week that you should be replicating at least each week to understand whether something was deleted or not in that sense. So that's what we want to add. However, you cannot do that because the way that retention policies work when you combine them, well, it basically says I'm going to keep all the data that, for example, if you would combine a latest version subset and you would combine a new kind of retention policy for deletions, you would say, I will keep all the latest versions and I will keep all the deletions for at least a week. So basically, yeah, if you say and, you take the union, which means that, again, according to the first retention policy, you'll anyway have to keep the deletions until the end of time again. So we need a way to be able to intersect these retention policies, so that intersection, or the composite retention policies, as we call it here, this is something that we will need to add in the spec as well. We also had a fourth and last chapter in the spec that elaborated on how do I indicate that I'm republishing something and I'm republishing it in a certain way. That really dived into that swapping of triples and to do a version materialization and so on. I think it's very irrelevant to the spec, or to the main purpose of the spec and to the consumer-oriented part of the spec. I think it should be entirely reworked in the server primer in that sense. And that's it. This is basically a run through the current spec and how I was thinking while I was now processing this to create a new stable version of this, or like a new foundation to then add all the new feature requests on top of it. And I did some. I think I worked 1 week non-stop on this, so it was quite a lot of work. And well, it's in the pull request over here. So this is the pull request you can find. Ranko. The thing is, however, you don't have the HTML version over there. However, I included the screenshot on the next slide, and this mainly follows that planned overview that I showed. So it starts with an introduction, introducing, okay, what's the goal of the specification. An LDES client is a piece of software that will replicate the full thing, and then always, and once it has caught up with the stream, it remains synchronized as new members are published, and so on and so forth. We then go towards the overview, on which we actually now included these. Let me see if I can go to the live version of this. Yes, so there's a build that I did yesterday. It goes on by saying, okay, what do you need to implement of the tree specification? So it's these 4 chapters that you need to implement, and only a part of the pruning branches, because only the one that are relevant to XSD date time values. And then it also extends the tree specification with this image. I made it part of the spec. There was, of course, the question, and yeah, I did this now as a suggestion without checking with everyone here. Everyone here is also aware of the SEMIC style guide, which I'm which I a little bit ignored for now. And there in the style guide, we should have a UML diagram. So maybe we want to change this towards a UML diagram. Mantas was it that proposed it? Let's see if we where we get with that. Good. So that's it from my part. Just a quick reminder of the communication channels. There's the matrix that is getting more and more active for direct communication, the matrix channel. There's of course the issue lists that you should check out, and there's of course the pull request that you should check out. If I don't hear you on the GitHub issues, I certainly hope to see you again in the standardization workshop next week, or maybe physically give you a hug during the SEMIC 2025 conference. Good, that's it. Does Isabeau or Natasha still want to have a final word?
Not from my side. I just want to thank everyone for joining, and for Peter for the presentation. Was very clear and helpful.
Maybe also a little sneak into what else SEMIC is doing. If you are still doubting or you need some extra support in an LDES implementation, we're still looking for some LDES pilots to do in collaboration with SEMIC. And the goal is there to really explore LDES in a new context. So those should lead to such an LDES implementation report, as we mentioned at the start of the meeting. So if you're interested in that, do feel free to reach out to us via any channel you might find, or the SEMIC functional email address.
Yes, good point, Emil.
A big thank you.
Okay, then we can.
Sorry, a big thank you for me to all the participants, and especially to Peter, who were talking for 2 hours non-stop, very enthusiastic. Thank you very much, Peter. And yes, as Emil said, please reach out to us. We are very willing, and we will be happy to help with any LDES implementations for pilots and investigate new use cases. So you know all the communication channels. So please reach out and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks a lot. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.